And we're live. Welcome to Someone's Good Books, the show that shines a light on really good books released during a challenging time. I'm your host, Joel A. Sutherland, author of the best-selling Haunted Canada, and a brand new amateur gardener who's looking forward to sharing one tomato with my family of 5 in 6 to 8 weeks. My guest today is Eric Walters, somewhere there. I think he's
hold
with
on.
us.
Let me take off the mask.
Probably for
It's
the
a bug
best.
mask, but you know what? Up here where I am, we've been wearing bug masks for years, and social distancing. Other than coming into town here to do this podcast, there's been nothing but my wife and a bear within long distances of me.
So you're the
And
safest writer in Canada right now.
Well, after 10 weeks in quarantine with my wife, I think I'm more afraid of her than I am the bear, actually.
It's a coin toss. Is that why you had to get in your car and leave the cottage in order to do this interview?
Well, that was partly to get Wi-Fi because apparently my Wi-Fi is not good enough at my cottage. But I'm here. Here's my plug. I'm going to turn it around. Stealing Wi-Fi from the back library. Can you see that?
We can see it. Yeah, it's a charming little library.
Wi-Fi. Because Wi-Fi all the Oh, they must have found out I'm stealing their Wi-Fi. They're fooling with it. They're turning it on and off, apparently.
They slowed you down a little bit there, but we heard the good parts. The librarians are honest, trustful, and they. You know what? Here's the truth. As a librarian, we want you to steal. That's kind of our whole motto. We buy books and we lend them out to people.
But you asked them to come back. Again, librarians are nice, kind people.
We do want them back.
But most of them don't fixate on ghouls and ogres and bad things. So I don't know. It may not be all librarians. It may be most of them. and I must admit, I'm a little confused about the stuff you write that's supposed to be scary. Because we got black flies, deer flies, and mosquitoes here. Twice this year, they've got together and stolen my car. Like dragons. What's a dragon? I heard of black flies. You will know what true fear is, my friend.
I totally understand. Those mosquitoes picking up your car and making it fly, that's probably the safest way to travel these days. You could actually go for a vacation. We're not going on a plane any day soon.
They can't keep up with me, believe me.
Oh, this is great so far. I'm gonna jump in. I'm going to jump in and give you
a Ferrari I'm sitting in right now.
I was going to ask.
Yes, this is authors in cars going to the McTier Library. That's what this show should be called.
And I'm the new Jerry Seinfeld. I totally love that. And we saw the library that you're stealing Wi-Fi from. I was curious to know what kind of car you're actually in, too.
Ferrari. It's definitely a Ferrari.
We'll have to take your word on that one.
Does Mazda make Ferrari?
I'm pretty sure they do. I'm pretty sure it's Mazda's Ferrari, absolutely.
And my other one's a Hyundai Lotus.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That's parked back at the cottage.
I can go from 0 to 60 in under an hour.
That's impressive. I mean, that's about as fast as you probably need to travel when you're up north too, right?
It's good. You just got to be faster than the black flies and you're okay.
That's the key. Well, listen, we do have a show here tonight. We could just riff all the time, but I do have an introduction for you. Not that you probably need it. I'll dive into that and then we'll get some questions. Yes, let's do it. Here we go.
Okay,
my guest today is Eric Walters, as I think everybody now knows, a member, since he took off his mask, a member of the Order of Canada and the author of over 115 books that have collectively won more than 100 awards and been translated into 15 different languages. A former teacher, Eric began writing as a way to get his 5th grade students interested in reading and writing. Eric is a tireless presenter, speaking to over 100,000 students, over 100 students, that's nothing, 100,000 students per year in schools across the country. He lives in Guelph, Ontario. Welcome to the show, Eric. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's been really different with the pandemic and not going to schools. I've got to the point where I stand on my front porch and yell at neighboring children just so I
What
have some contact.
what lucky neighbors. Do you know
Well, I
that
just
you're just
yell,
getting a free
get
author
off my lawn.
visit?
That's all I'm yelling repeatedly. Is just get off my lawn. And the
Yeah.
thing
Well,
is,
actually,
I don't
I
have
shouldn't have
one.
assumed that that's free. Do you charge for that? An author
Um,
visit presentation fee?
I track them down. I take their candy. It's worked out really well.
And if this is still going on at Halloween, you can just keep the candy as well. It'll be perfect.
Uh, Well, kids come to my door. I just take their candy.
Exactly.
Isn't that
You
how it
have
works
what you've
for
got.
you?
Pardon me?
Isn't that how it works for you at your house?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you wait for
Absolutely.
your kids to come home and then steal their candy?
It's the advantage of having 3 young kids who still go trick or treating. I get to eat all their candy all year round. We can't even finish it in a year. I usually have to throw some out the next Halloween.
Well, how old is your littlest? Your youngest?
3 years old.
Oh, then you just take the candy. Once they get past 12 pieces of candy, the 3-year-old can't tell anymore. So you get
He
everything
has no
above
idea.
12. Yeah, take advantage of
Absolutely.
those kids while you
That's the
can.
way it works. Yeah, I
But
mean, why else have kids if not to do silly Simpsons videos with them and eat their candy, right?
that Simpson video was perhaps your finest work. It was
I
truly
think so. It's
outstanding.
over. It just hit 1 million views on YouTube yesterday, and it had about 650,000 on Twitter, about 100,000 on Facebook. Unbelievable.
Now, 850,000 of those were you, right? You did the views.
Absolutely, from different IPs, just to make sure that it tracked as different logins.
Well, when you originally asked me to do this show, I said only on the condition we could do the opening to Dexter. So I'm a little disappointed at this point.
I
I'm not
know.
sure if I'm going to stay for the whole show.
Well, I wouldn't hold it against you. I might have to duck
Okay.
out early too. When I saw you first start with the mask on, I was getting a little scared. I'll admit.
Me trying to properly deal with the pandemic.
Very wise. Well, listen, we've got a few comments in the chat already. Anyone that's watching live on Facebook, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to add them to the chat, and I'll get to them as we go.
Do you hear the train going by me? Do you hear the train?
This is a true Canadian interview tonight. You're out in cottage country with the train going by and a bug mask just in case it gets
I'll
so
show
bad.
you the train. I'm going to stick
You gotta
this
see the
out the
train.
window. Train.
I can see the train. I hear it.
Did you see the train? Listen, you
I
can see
saw
it through
it.
my back window. Through
Okay,
the back
this is
window of
great.
my Ferrari.
This is a first for someone's good books. An author in a Ferrari with the train going by in the background. Just a couple quick chats before I comment. Yeah, love it. A few comments here in the chat. We've got Tyler watching. He says, Eric, I love your book Rebound. I have cerebral palsy. I actually met Tyler you were there as well, Eric, at Sault Ste. Marie for the Festival of Trees event.
Yeah.
A few years back. And I met him at a library talk I did after that event. Holy cow, the comments are flying in now. I'm going to get through them quickly because if I get too many, I can't scroll back and see them all. So Tyler's
Do they
here.
all
He loves
involve
Rebound.
trains? Are all the questions about trains?
People are going nuts for the train.
Okay.
That's all we're going to answer at this point. They're
I'll
loving the
answer
train.
Tyler's question, then just trains.
Exactly. Joanne Richards, Joanne, of course, she says, hey, Joel and Eric. She says, I see the train. Karen Upper is here as well. She says, hi, Eric and Joel. I'm in my car as well. She's in her car watching. You're in your car chatting. I love this. Why am I not in a car? I'm letting the show down tonight.
You're barely uncooperative.
I know.
Did you get the memo?
I did not.
Ask
You sent it to
Tyler,
Karen.
you
You didn't send it to me.
Tyler, go to a car.
Yeah, Tyler, quick. Lori Strubell is here. She's a friend of mine from the Georgina area when I worked at the Georgina Public Library. She says, hi there. We did not finish the book we started yesterday, but the girls are loving it. Lori, remind us which book you're reading again. She did message me to tell me she started reading one of your books when she heard you were going to be the guest. So, Lori, let us know which one it is. And author Daphne Greer is here as well, saying you two are hilarious. We could just call it a day. I've got all these questions handwritten here. I don't even have to ask them anymore. We'll just do this.
I think we've got potential to be a stand-up comedy duo.
We'll work on it.
Think of two really talented comedians, and that's not us.
No, exactly. We'll be the anti-talented comedians. We'll be the refreshing take on the comedy scene.
It will
People
be like
want
a
jokes.
Seinfeld episode. Nothing
Yeah,
funny happens here.
exactly. It's just a slice of life. Lauren Flattery, who I work with at the Pickering Public Library, says someone's good books in a car. I like it. We've got a new name for the show. And Lori says, Prince for a Princess.
Prince for a Princess. That was my daughter's actual dogs, King and Chancho. And sadly, Chancho died 3 weeks ago, the
Oh,
Chihuahua.
I'm
It
sorry to
was
hear that. I do
sad. It
remember
was
seeing
sad.
that. Yeah, on
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
And yeah. My goodness, we've got, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get to these questions. More people. We got dad jokes. People are loving the dad jokes.
Dad jokes.
I come by it honestly. I think you do too, Eric. Oh, the library's not liking your Wi-Fi theft right now. They're slowing you down. Dad jokes are bad jokes. It's the train.
Are we back?
All right. Well, let me ask the first question because
Well,
of course.
whoever accuses us of dad jokes, but whoever accuses us of dad jokes, go to your room right now. You are
I'm going to
grounded.
record. I'm going to take that snippet and just play it for my kids whenever they do something wrong. I'm just going to say, Eric's grounding you. Go to your room. Yeah, a lot scarier than me, even though I write the scary books.
I'm pretty scary.
Speaking of books, let's talk about yours because you have a book that just came out this week. You have a book that came out yesterday. Don't Stand So Close to Me was published by Orca on June 2nd, 2020. Like I said, yesterday. In the spirit of this show and the name of the show, please tell us what makes this a good book.
It sucks. It basically sucks like most of my books. This one just topically sucks. Actually, I hope it's a good book, or I'm on the wrong show. I'd be on somebody's sucky book show if that wasn't the case. This is a book based on the pandemic, and it's that I started writing it 41 days ago. Actually, 42 days ago. It went 41 days from conception to publication. It's about some kids in grade 8. They're in school. They're called down an assembly, and the principal says spring break's being extended 2 weeks. They're originally happy about that, but then things evolve to extended time, remote learning, quarantines, closing down of non-essential services, toilet paper wars, quarantining groceries. And my main characters, Quinn, her father's an ER doctor who during this has to live in their basement. They eat meals one landing apart from each other. Isaac, whose mother is the chief of police, and Reese, who has a grandmother's in a nursing home. And they're dealing with all the things that kids are dealing with. And I had beta readers in Florida, Arkansas, BC, Manitoba, and Ontario, teacher librarians, consultants, and also kids that age, helping me, giving me feedback about the story. In the end, when school is finally canceled, they feel such a sense of loss, such a sense of anger. And Quinn's been dealing with this with a lot of anxiety. And Quinn decides with their friends they're going to do something. They're going to have a physically distant, socially appropriate street dance with all of the grade 8s. And they put 10 by 10 sidewalk chalk blocks. They have outdoor speakers. They have digital projectors on the garages. Neighbors put up Christmas lights and come and sit on the edges of their property. They have a pandemic playlist, plus you can phone in requests. They have a best mask contest. They have one of the blocks with a green screen, and you can have a picture taken and a backdrop of anywhere in the world put behind you. And the bottom line of this message is it isn't what you lose, it's what you try and maintain. And you can't do what you want, but you try and do the best you can. And it's interesting having Karen and Joanne as in the listening in today. They both told me how it affected them, and a tear in their eye. And I think Joanne talked about the sun bursting through on a cloudy day. That's what it felt like at the end.
That's great. That's a great quote.
I love when people review my books are better with words than I am. Yeah. That's why I like being interviewed by you. We're both equally inept with it word stuff.
If it weren't for an editor, I'd be lost at sea. Yeah.
that's how it works. And I was so blessed. I
That's
had so
amazing.
many
And like you
people
said,
giving me
Joanne and
feedback
Karen
on
are
this
both
book.
here. Joanne saying it does not suck when you were talking about the book sucking in the beginning. She says it's an amazing story. Karen says, don't stand so close to me, had me in tears and cheers. Kim HK is another teacher librarian that's been watching a lot of these shows. She says, what a whirlwind, talking about the whole writing process and wants to let us know that we're both hilarious. I'm starting to think maybe we should. No, we shouldn't do a comedy road trip. No, but if enough people say it, maybe. We'll see. Daphne is asking a question. She wants to know, how many hours a day do you write? Oh,
well, for that book, I was writing about
wow.
14 hours a day.
2 full-time jobs a day.
It was just phenomenal. I know there was interest when I was sitting there, walking around the house, eating a bowl of soup because I couldn't sit down because that's the only time I got up. For my writing was to do that.
Well, I always ask my guests
intense.
every week on this show what it's like having a book released during a pandemic. But this book, in a way, was released because of a pandemic. All the other authors, they wrote a book a year or two ago, and it's just been scheduled. They had no idea what they were going to face when their book came out. So I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit more about reaching readers at a time like this. Mm-hmm.
Well, we originally were going to release this book yesterday, but out of respect for Blackout Tuesday, we pulled everything. And I was up most of the night monitoring the situation. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I thought we can't do anything today. It would be disrespectful. So at 7, I started making phone calls and emails, and we pulled everything off social media. We had a website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, a podcast, another podcast, as well as this one for today. We had major organizations announcing it. We have two TikTok dances up, and we and we scrapped everything. We said we'll postpone it 24 hours. We have to show respect for the significance of what was happening yesterday, what continues to happen. And I'm one of the people behind I Read Canadian. That actually was conceived in my car. I spent a lot of time in my car. And the message behind that was we wanted to respect Canadian voices, as in all Canadian voices. The strength of this country is the diversity of who we are and the stories we have to tell. And I think that this story about the pandemic is trying to be sensitive to people who are going through the pandemic. But can you imagine the irony of releasing this book at a time when we have to be sensitive to a whole other, basically a pandemic that's going on? And so we couldn't do it yesterday. That would have been just plain wrong. And today's been a whirlwind of activity. It's been phenomenal. But between doing things, though, I would go out and put on my mosquito mask because I'm actually building under my deck. I have a deck of my property, and it drops out to a walkout. I'm building a 9 by 36 screened-in play area for my grandkids. That's going to include a slide, a sandbox, swings, a climbing wall, and I think I figured out how to do a zip line inside there for my 2-year-old
Can I come?
Grandchildren.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing between things.
Thank you.
You can come. There's no problem. You just got to drive like a Ferrari to my place because we have an only Ferrari and Lotus parking area.
Yeah. That gives me an excuse to take my Ferrari out of the garage, uncover it, and take it for a spin. This is a good thing. Take it for a little spin. I love it.
Take it for a little spin.
Well, as you mentioned, Don't Stand So Close to Me took 41 days to write, edit, and publish. Just got to ask, could you not have pulled maybe one more all-nighter to make it an even 40?
Well, part of it isn't the problem was in formatting and getting onto the different sites where people could buy ebooks. That took time. But what we're doing is, rather than working, you know how everything's consecutive when you're publishing. You write a book, look at accepting it. It goes back and forth. Work with the editor. It goes back and forth. You might have some ARCs. You might have some beta readers. Then they figure out a cover. Then they figure out how to market it. Then this was everybody working continually together. I had Zoom sessions with all of the Orca staff. They were working on covers as I was working through the book. I had beta readers worked on. My editor was working on weekends. We had Saturday night Zoom sessions, phone calls, meetings. We were working at a bizarre schedule. And it was true partnership. For example, the title of this book, that's not the title I came up with. I had Safety Dance. And I said, I'm not crazy about it. Let your marketing team get together. So all of Orca sat down. They came up with 5 titles. They sent them back to me and said, here's 5. We like one a lot.
And that's the exact one.
Yeah. I looked at it and thought, oh, this is the one I want. And they said, that's the one we want.
Yeah.
So somebody in marketing came up with this title. But that's not unusual. I've got another Orca book coming out in the fall. And the title I originally had was Broken Crayon Still Color. And then Kathy Kaser and I put up Broken Strings. And talking to my Orca editor, Tanya, she said, I don't think we can go with that. I said, what do you got in mind? She came back 2 days later with The King of Jam Sandwiches.
That's a good one, too. Yeah.
What a brilliant title.
Exactly. That's what I was saying before.
Isn't it great we have
if it weren't for my editor,
smart.
Everybody would know that I'm just the, massive klutz and idiot that I am,
Are we giving away secrets? People think we're articulate and literate? Because we're not. My wife is my first proofreader for stories, and I'll be in the other room and I'll hear her laughing, and I'll say, did I write something funny or did I write funny? She said, the line you put was, my favorite foot to eat is... Spelling, grammar,
That's
tenses,
right. They just get in the way of story anyway. It's all about a good story.
I heard before your wife started working with you, your original title for your series was a little bit maybe haunted sort of stories of...
And the subtitle was, they're really, really, really
that was the original title
scary,
came up with?
These stories. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That didn't even last. That didn't even make the cut. That got the machete as well. But no, if not for family and spouses and editors, I tell you, I don't think I'd be a writer. Not a published one, anyway.
Well, apparently, from what you told me, you're not a writer. You just take other people's... Get your wife here.
People are actually watching this. There's people in the chat.
You're kind of like stage
absolutely
dressing on the whole
thing. And now the secret's out there.
She thought, oh, they'll believe it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to invite her onto someone's good books next week.
Yeah, most
she'll
of us
be my guest.
That anyways. Yeah,
I'll invite her on to tell me about
my
books.
But you said this was a secret. Quite frankly, everyone in the writing committee assumed you weren't actually writing the book. So
it was that secret that's not truly a secret. It was that open secret. But to me, I'm still pretending it's a secret at least. Exactly. That's what writers do, right?
Pretend. Just like we're pretending I'm in a Ferrari.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Hold on.
Now you're getting
down my convertible.
You're gonna get a nice tan now during this show. So it's you're multitasking.
Ferrari.
Yeah. Oh, the audience loved it. Well, listen, I gotta ask a really serious question now. I need to know what you miss more since the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
The smell of a bookstore, the smell of a used bookstore, or the smell of a public library. And you won't insult this librarian if you don't say library.
Oh my God! I must admit I don't I miss the smell of a bakery. I always told my
the best public library is one that doesn't smell.
To be quite honest with you,
I know. I had to ask a library question when you're right beside one,
you should do it
stealing their Wi-Fi.
Yes, they don't smell. I miss bookstores tremendously because I go into bookstores all the time. They're one of the most wonderful, friendly places you can be. I love the staff, and I just kind of wander in and introduce myself and sign books, and most of the time it works out well. I was asked for ID once, and I was out running, and I didn't have ID on me. I said, has there
Yeah,
been
wanting to
a
sign your
lot of
books.
people coming here pretending to be me? Like, is that a problem in your bookstore? But if I'm going to fake being somebody, it's not Eric Walters. Like, hi, I'm J.K. Rowling. Maybe I could say, hi, I'm Joel Sutherland's wife. I write Haunted Canada.
There you
Like,
go.
I think
Oh yeah, we knew she wrote those books. You froze a little bit for us, and the
am I
audio cut
freezing for
out,
you?
but your joke landed.
I actually I think
Yeah,
you're basically
yeah.
editing this whenever I say anything you don't like. Oh, it's
Pause.
just frozen. So
Pause.
if I was to say Joel Sutherland's books
See,
really,
tech skills. I've silenced Eric Walters. Maybe the only person that could ever do that.
you've met my wife. I told you she is the most wonderful person in the universe, but I fear her more than
Lies.
I fear a
Listen, I
bear.
remember when you were telling that
I
story
would not want to
one
get
time
her
where I
mad at
went
me.
into a bookstore, just randomly popped in and asked if I could sign the Haunted Canada books my wife has written. They asked for ID as well. They had, whoops, I didn't, I mean the books that I've written. They asked for ID, and I just flipped to the author photo in the back of the book
Okay.
and said, it's me right here in the book. They still wanted to see my driver's license. So that's where I
I
was
did not
too.
find in that stores in Kelowna.
No
But
word of a
have you
lie.
noticed a lot of
For
authors, their
Book Week,
author
doing a tour there, and Kamloops
really
and Kelowna, and it
a
was
lot of
in Kelowna.
authors
Clearly, this is
they
unbelievable.
are a suspicious
Nobody's
group
going
in
to believe that
Kelowna.
this is true. They're going to think we
It's
set this
obvious.
up.
They, they,
That's
well,
amazing.
well, sometimes you do things. Once Richard Scrimger and I went to a party where nobody knew us, and we claimed to be the other one, and we sort of edged each other on to see who could say the most ridiculous things until we realized we were going to destroy both of our careers.
Yeah.
And I don't think Richard cares that much, but I actually do care. So I finally said, "You win.
Yeah, there's
I
only
give up.
one
I'm back
Richard
to being Eric
Scrimger, and
Walters. Give me Richard
he's
Scrimger."
got it nailed down. So no, can't do.
You are not
Yeah,
winning that fight. You got to know
exactly.
it's like with the bear. You're not winning this fight.
Well,
Just
speaking of fighting,
lay down,
I
pretend
have a
you're dead.
question about two other books that you've had released just at the beginning of 2020, at the just before the pandemic really was declared a pandemic. On the Rocks and
Yep.
High and Dry were both published this year, and they also both have covers featuring young people standing on rocks, looking out at the water. I want to know, speaking of fighting, if this is a case of a younger brother wanting to be just like their older brother, and if so, have there been any epic sibling battles, some rivalry between the two books? Did they get along? Good to hear.
They get along fine. They're both the story about a grandfather and a grandson saving a
Been,
stranded
yeah,
killer
fascinating.
whale. They're very different stories, but the details around the stranding of the whale and what they have to do is all very similar. One is written more for grade twos and threes, and one is written for grade 4, 5, and 6. What I wanted was some transition where kids who are reading High and Dry would then move
I
to the
love
next
this.
step on the rocks. I wanted to give them a transition
Yeah,
point. So one is a sounding and one is a first chapter book.
I love that.
I just
Yeah,
want to tell the
I
same
didn't. I
story two
actually, when
different
I was
ways
writing this question, I didn't
and see how I
realize
could do that.
there was that connection between them.
It,
I thought it was just one of these, things that happen in publishing sometimes, where two things come out around the same time that maybe have been written a long time ago. They end up looking kind of similar. This is so fascinating. I love this.
it was very deliberate. I've written a lot of books, so I'm always trying to write different things and different ways of looking at things, and that's where Don't Stand So Close to Me was such an interesting challenge to write something that quickly, to write concurrently, to write in collaboration, and then to get all these people involved, friends, people I know, contacts, to do this massive, different
I love it. And,
multi-platform
being a big fan of
launch.
yours,
It's all
I've always
fascinating.
appreciated seeing all the ways you've innovated, with the 7 series and so many other, yeah, so many different series books that you've done that have reinvented the game
So
in a
it's
little
fun.
bit and brought something totally unique to the table. As a librarian, too, I'll say that kids coming in love that as well. They love your books, but then they also love seeing something new and fresh, somebody taking a chance. Kids really respond well to that.
I love I love playing with things. I like doing things, and I jokingly say I'm a method writer. So I love doing what my characters do. So for Between Heaven and Earth with 7 series, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro because my character did. When I wrote Just Deserts, I walked 250 kilometers across the Sahara Desert. I crossed the entire country of Tunisia on foot. For Walking Home, I walked halfway across Kenya. For
Yeah,
Don't Stand
absolutely.
So Close to Me, I lived the pandemic the way we're all living it. I, I love those experiences. Although it gets strange when you've written enough books. I was at a school a couple of years ago, and they gave the entire school 2 minutes to write down titles of my books.
That's a
And the
great.
12 kids who knew the most books got to have a pizza lunch with me. And they're telling me this. I think this is fascinating. Give me 2 minutes. Let's see how many books I can write down. I didn't qualify to have
You were
lunch
just
with
sit in
them.
the hallway. Well, the kids got all the pizza.
The kids knew more books than me.
Yeah.
I got no pizza. I just sit in the hall. It reminded me very much of my
That's
middle
right.
school
Oh, I
year,
love it. At
sitting in
least
the
you weren't in
hall outside the
trouble
principal's
this
office.
time, as I assume you would have been. Not this time.
Well, not this time. I, I
Right.
never got in serious trouble, but I did have a really goofy streak,
It definitely can.
and that can really get you in trouble sometimes.
Nope.
Growing up, I found policemen do not like a sense of humor. They don't take that well, and
No, no.
principals
Got to
don't like
respect the
when
authority.
you joke around with them either, for the most part.
Yeah. Well, we're pushing the time
You
here,
do.
and I know you've got a busy day. You've had a long day. I have to ask one last question because you have had one other book released during the pandemic. I don't want to forget it either. I know you have more books
Yes.
coming out when this pandemic will likely still be going on. But my final question was about, as I say, a different book. While Don't Stand So Close to Me was written for these times, I feel like Bath Time might have been as well. Most days, all I want to do is to slip into a nice hot bath and only emerge when I'm out of bath bombs. So, how prescient is this adorable book? And tell us a little bit about it. I got to pull up a cover so people can see it if they haven't yet.
I'm still having a lot of trouble
Let's
with this
move along from that real
visualizing you in a
quick. I'll
bath
leave the
part. So
frog
let's
cover
just
up on my
please
screen for
put
a
up the
bit.
cover as quick, quick as possible. I like. I've got my grandkids are 4 and 2 and 22 months and 7 months, and so I just write some books for them because I just love them so much. And it's I've got another one coming out called Good Night
Of
Noah,
course.
and it was based on the fact Noah and I were driving, of course, in
Oh,
my
nice.
Ferrari, and he was in his Ferrari car seat, and kept making animal noises, and he kept saying, "You're not a dog, you're a man." And then I'd make another animal sound. He'd say, "You're not a frog, you're a man."
Yeah.
And so that book is basically written in my Ferrari. I'm glad you guys can't see what this car is. Um, so I'm writing
That's
some
lovely.
things that are just for my
That's fun.
grandkids at this point.
Absolutely.
I'm having fun.
Absolutely.
Isn't this
I
supposed
love
to be
that.
fun?
All right. Well, like I said, we've gone pretty long. We riffed a little bit. We tested out our comedy chops, our duo road trip that we're going to be heading out on, and it failed. And nobody else has said we're funny enough, so we're not going out on tour, even when we're allowed to leave the house again. But the last thing I always do, we'll, yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, time will tell.
I think
The
we
last
should.
thing I always do on
Yep.
someone's good
Yes.
books
Go ahead.
is take a moment at the end of every show to show off our socks, because since this lockdown has begun, I know I've rarely left the house, and so my socks have taken center stage, and I've got a lot of fun ones. So today, I want to show off my socks first before I ask you to do the same. I had to put on some superhero socks. Of course, I've got Spider-Man here, Spider-Man socks. And that is, Eric, because I think in the Canadian book world, you are my heroes. You've done so much for Canadian publishers, for librarians, for authors, for readers, and we all appreciate that so much. Would you care to show us? Actually, wait a minute. You're in your Ferrari. Are you going to be able to show us your socks?
Uh, well,
That's what I do.
you're showing off with this sock stuff. I'm up here in MacTier, up in cottage country. I just wear flip flops
Those
the
are
whole
cottage
time.
country socks, aren't
I ain't
they?
got no socks. I wear a
Absolutely. Why
bug
would you
mask
wear
and I wear
socks?
flip flops, more or less. Or the socks would be bad. I don't even wear socks in the winter. I
They're
just
like snowshoes. I was
trudge
gonna
through the
say you wouldn't be
snow
Canadian if
in
you
my flip
wore
flops.
socks with flip flops, and if you wore socks in the summer at the cottage, just doesn't work. Even in your Ferrari. Well, really.
Actually, they're big enough to be snowshoes. Believe me, I don't sink
It's
through the snow.
brilliant.
I stay on top of the snow.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Eric. I really appreciate you taking the time out
Works
of
for
a
me.
very busy day to have this chat. This has been a lot of fun. There's
You're very
been
welcome.
plenty more comments of everybody enjoying the show and the questions, the answers, and the talk in general. We're still not doing the comedy road trip, but people have enjoyed it. So thanks so much. I want to say that a lot of fun. I want to say, as always, that of
You're
course
very
you can
welcome. A lot of
order
fun.
all or any of Eric's books from your favorite bookseller. Don't forget that, of course, a lot of independent bookstores, although still closed, are offering curbside pickup and delivering, so support your local bookstore. As I say every week in closing, everyone, thanks for watching. Stay home, wash your hands, read Canadian. Take care, everybody. Good night. I want to hear the engine rev.
I'm going to start my Ferrari.
Bye, library.